Airlines and cruise lines just banned some surprising everyday items that might have been on your cruise packing list. Pack wrong, and you could be stopped by security, find your items confiscated, or even be denied boarding. Hi there, I'm Ilana from the website lifewellcruise.com. Welcome back to my channel. Now, over the last year, there have been a lot of travel and cruise rule changes. And over the last couple of months, the TSA added some new items to their banned list, in particular what you can and cannot pack in your checked or carry-on luggage. Now, in this video, I'm going to be sharing the latest items to be banned on flights and on cruises. And in a couple of cases, these are everyday items that you really would not expect. Now, before I get started, I did want to mention that if you like this video, if you find it helpful, informative, or enjoyable in any way, then please do give this video a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Let's get started. All right, I want to start off with something super important, as some of you may have this item on your cruise and travel packing list. Now, it is cordless hair straighteners and cordless hair curlers. Now, you may have seen this item being advertised. I definitely have. And you can bring this. However, what you cannot do is pack this item in your checked luggage when you are flying. Now, these cordless hair styling tools might be powered by butane, gas, or lithium. Now, understandably, if these are packed in checked luggage, they could be hazardous. So you are permitted to pack them in your carry-on luggage only with a safety cover on. Portable chargers and power banks. Now, these are never permitted to be packed in your checked luggage if you are flying, and you are able to bring these in your carry-on bag. However, more than this, you do really want to check with your airline's rules, because they have been stricter about this over the last couple of months. Now, in fact, we were on a recent flight to Europe, and we were informed on both ways that if we were going to be charging our devices, that we should have our portable chargers visible. Now, this appears to be due to some fires that have actually occurred on airplanes, and the additional information that we were given is if our device gets hot or if there was a flame that we saw, that we needed to alert the flight attendants immediately, which of course we would do. Now, I'm going to be talking about cruises in just a moment, but I want to continue on with flights with something that's a little bit more seasonal. And this is any fireworks or any pyrotechnics. Now, you're actually not allowed to bring this on airplanes at all. But this summer, this is something that we see is really being reinforced. Now, you actually can face major fines. And if you do bring this on an airplane, whether in checked luggage or in a carry-on, of course, it is a major fire hazard, and it can mean being removed from the flight or even facing federal charges. By the way, on our recent flight to Munich, we had a situation where somebody decided to vape on the plane. It is quite a story, so I'm not going to share it in this video, but if you do want to hear it, comment "flight story" down below and I will share it in a future video. Now, we can see that the TSA is cracking down more and more, but it really is all about keeping you safe when you travel. And speaking of safety, let's talk about something else that's also very important, which is protecting our personal data from scammers. Now, this is where Incogni, the sponsor of today's video, comes in, because scammers don't have to steal your info, they buy it. If you've ever booked a cruise flight or even just searched for travel deals on the internet, your personal data is out there. And it's not just sitting around, it's being bought, sold, and passed around by hundreds of data broker sites that you probably have never even heard of. Your name, email, and even your travel patterns all being used without your permission. And with scams getting more sophisticated, protecting your digital privacy has never been more important. Now, Incogni works by contacting those data broker sites on your behalf and requesting that your personal information be removed. Now, I started to use Incogni a couple of months ago, and I'm able to see the amount of data broker sites that have already started to remove my data. Plus, I receive a report every single month so I can track the progress. Now, it's super easy to sign up. First, you create an account. It actually took me less than 5 minutes. Then you grant Incogni the right to act on your behalf to request the removal of your personal information from these data broker sites. And the best part is that it's all done automatically. Now, signing up for an annual plan is best because they could do this proactively every single month, even as new data broker sites emerge. Now, I do have an awesome 60% off discount code on Incogni's annual plan, so I will leave the link as well as the discount code down below in the description of the video and the pinned comment in case you do want to check it out. Now, when it comes to cruises, there are new stricter rules that have been implemented in the last couple of months. Bluetooth speakers. Now, Carnival in particular has banned Bluetooth speakers, so even if you do want to use them in your cabin, you're not allowed to bring them on the cruise ship. Now, other cruise lines, including Royal Caribbean, do have certain rules, and right now it looks like you cannot bring them on their private island, Perfect Day, at Coco Cay. Now, all cruise lines in general do have rules about using Bluetooth speakers in public areas. So if you do bring them on the cruise ship, make sure that you're using them in the cabin and that you're keeping the sound to a reasonable level. Internet routers and mini Starlink devices. Now, this was a little bit of a Wi-Fi trick that people were using about a year ago. However, over the last few months, cruise lines have gotten wise, and they actually have added this to their prohibited items list. Now, cruise lines cite that this can interfere with cruise ship systems, pose cybersecurity risks, and hog bandwidth, and if found, they will usually be confiscated. Updates on power strips and extension cords. Now, if you've been cruising for a long time, you know that cruise lines have banned surge-protected power strips and extension cords for a long time. However, several months ago, we also had a cruise line that banned even non-surge protected power cubes. Now, that is Royal Caribbean, and some people say that this applies to Celebrity as well. Now, what you can do for these cruise lines in particular is you could bring a USB outlet extender. These are permitted. For all other cruise lines, if I'm not mistaken, and do verify this on the cruise line website, but you could bring a non-surge protected power cube or travel adapter with USB outlets. A case of water bottles. Now, if you cruised even a few years ago, you may remember the times where you could bring a case of water bottles on board. This is no longer the case. Now, for a couple of reasons. One of them is actually for the environment. So you can't bring a case of water bottles, and you can bring a refillable water bottle. But the other reason is likely because some people were actually filling those water bottles with other liquids. Now, just to let you know, if you are cruising with Carnival or Royal Caribbean, for example, and some other cruise lines as well, they will allow you to bring a case of 12 pack of soda and something like that. So non-alcoholic drinks. And many cruise lines will allow you to bring one bottle of wine per person. However, hard alcohol is not permitted. Now, just a little note, as always, make sure that you do check your cruise line website because there can be some differences between the lines. Cleaning products, bleach, and solvents. Now, this might surprise you, but this has actually come up before where people have said, I want to clean my cabin and I want to bring a big container of Lysol or a big bottle of Lysol or a big aerosol can, and no, you're not able to bring that. Now, you can bring some Lysol wipes, so that's absolutely fine. And even when it comes to an aerosol can, if you do have a small aerosol can for your personal use for hairspray, cruise lines have said that is okay, but you cannot bring large amounts of chemicals, and this includes even common household bleach and sprays. Water guns, Nerf guns, and anything resembling a weapon. Now, people have actually had these items confiscated, and that's why I'm mentioning these sort of everyday items that if you're traveling and maybe you're traveling with children, you may actually have these with you. So to avoid disappointment, do not bring these on a cruise ship. You can bring some other toys, but any of these replica weapons, even if they don't really look like weapons, are not permitted. Now, speaking of weapons, swords sold as souvenirs. Now, unfortunately, people have also been disappointed when they've purchased an item in a cruise port as a souvenir, and unfortunately, they've come back on the cruise ship and they found that they're not able to keep that sword or any kind of replica item that is something like that, like a pirate sword or anything like that. So don't even buy that item in a cruise port of call. In some cases, by the way, the cruise line while they will confiscate it, they will allow you to have it back at the end of the cruise. But if that's going to mean that your child is going to be crying and if it's going to upset you, it's probably best to purchase something else. Oversized mobility scooters. Now, this is something to be very careful of. So if you do have a scooter or even a wheelchair, make sure that you do check the cruise line website. Now, on most cruise line websites, they're going to have sort of a special needs form or an accessibility form that you can actually fill out. It's always a good idea to let the cruise line know if you're going to be coming on board with a wheelchair or a scooter, or if you have any other medical needs, even if you're using a CPAP, let them know. But for Carnival in particular, they do have a rule that your scooter has to be able to get through the cabin door, so under 22 inches. And if not, you could actually be denied boarding. Now, as I mentioned, you'll want to check the cruise line website to see all of the information. But just to let you know, if your own scooter is larger than that, there is a way that you could rent a scooter that is the appropriate size and pick it up at the cruise port. Items that have a fire and safety risk. Now, this includes irons and travel steamers. Now, at least a couple of times a month, I get an email from people who are asking me, what about certain travel steamers that are cordless, that seem to be sold? And in some cases, they are saying that they are cruise approved. Now, you really do want to check the cruise line website. To my knowledge, and from everything that I've seen and heard, these are still not permitted to be brought on board. And if you do bring them, they are going to be confiscated. And that means picking them up at the very end of the cruise. Vegetables, fruits, and live plants. Now, something you really want to be careful of is not necessarily embarkation, although you're not allowed to bring perishable food onto a cruise ship. But very importantly is when you're getting off the cruise ship in a port of call, sometimes people have been fined for doing this very thing. If you think that you're going to get off in a cruise port of call like Cozumel, Mexico, and bring off a banana for a snack later on, just as an example, think again, because you can get fined. Some people have been fined up to $500, and they blamed the cruise line for not letting them know. But it is the rule in many countries that you're not allowed to bring any plants and vegetables and fruit. So you really want to be careful of that. Leave the food that you eat on the cruise ship and leave the food that you are eating in the island or destination there as well. Now, I'm going to leave the link to Incogni's annual plan along with that 60% off discount down below in the description of this video, as well as a pinned comment. And I would love to hear from you. What are some of the items that you've seen banned, maybe that you've even seen on that cruise ship confiscation table? Please let me know down in the comments below. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give it a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Bye for now and happy cruising.